have paper cuts from my Glenn stack already.
Uh-oh.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, Glenn.
Good morning, Steph. A lot
Wow.
going on the justice front.
Wow. Where should we start? I don't even know where to start. Let's start with Ivanka. So they are asking her, this is not a subpoena yet, they're asking Ivanka Trump, but there was a lot in this letter that was released publicly, as if to say, we already have a lot of stuff, right? I mean, give me your... obviously, Liz Cheney had said before, we know his daughter, we have firsthand testimony. She went in at least twice to ask him to stop this violence. That was previously. So what is your take on Ivanka, first of all, and what's going to happen there? And also, she's in the New York AG thing, which looks more like criminal culpability, right, in that she was the one that dealt with Deutsche Bank and may have signed false statements. But go ahead.
Yeah, she's going to be privy to some of Daddy's corrupt intent, his state of mind, what he was thinking, what he was saying. And so those statements are important. Like you say, Steph, you know, we can see the investigative circle tightening because they're beginning to get to the players who are closest to Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani, and now Ivanka. That is a sign that they are nearing the end of their investigation, because you don't begin stepping to the main players or what might actually be the targets of the investigation until the very end, because you want everybody else's account of what happened. You want the documents, the texts, and everything else. And then you want to confront the main players with that evidence. And Ivanka better remember, there is no daddy-daughter privilege that she can invoke to try to
That's
prevent,
not a thing.
That's not a thing. And there is a husband-wife privilege, but I'm not even going to go there. But the
nothing for daughter-wife in the law.
But the only question for Ivanka, and we may all know the answer to this, Steph, but I think it's a serious question. You know, does she want to be a patriot? Does she want to tell the American people about what was going on that day, or does she want to be part of the cover-up? Does she want to join the cover-up club, which presently consists of Mark Meadows, Jim Jordan, Scott Perry, and she will be at least the fourth member if she decides that even though I have important, relevant, and potentially incriminating information about what my father said and did, I'm not going to provide it. There's a term for that, Steph. It's called a cover-up. Did these people learn nothing from Watergate?
Joe, exactly. Well, Glenn, you tweeted, I believe, about, does the Supreme Court ruling on the records change the calculus for these other people? Because, clearly they blew up that there's no, executive privilege. As you said, there's no daddy-daughter privilege. Yeah. And it would seem to me that Giuliani, etc., the crime fraud exemption would say there's no attorney-client privilege. Talk to us just about the privilege question.
Yeah, so the key is, though, that the answer to the question, shouldn't the Supreme Court lay this executive privilege nonsense to rest? The answer is yes, if you care about the law. And these people don't care about the law. So they will continue to lodge, legal challenges, mainly frivolous legal challenges, some meritorious, like attorney-client. That's a real privilege. Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. That's a real privilege. Any number of these witnesses, Steph, like a Rudy Giuliani, could waltz in to the House Select Committee and say, I invoke the Fifth. And he would be excused after invoking the Fifth 500 times, like Eric Trump did in New York. He would be excused because that's a legitimate privilege. Yeah. He gets to invoke that. No matter how cruddy you are, the Constitution protects you against self-incrimination. But these people don't care what the Supreme Court has said about Trump having little to no executive privilege. They're going to keep fighting the corrupt fight.
Yeah. Sorry, we have a lot of dog-related activity this morning. You brought up Giuliani. So again, not sort of a surprise, but it's still a legitimate bombshell that we know now Giuliani is behind the fake elector thing. On December 14, 2020, day of the Electoral College vote, Republican electors convened in capitals of 5 states that Biden won. They declared themselves duly elected and qualified, sent signed certificates to Washington. The Trump electors gathered in plain sight, assisted by Rudy Giuliani, who said publicly that rival states were necessary and appropriate. These were necessary and appropriate. Internally, Giuliani oversaw the effort. I mean, how is this not? Well, I mean, Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel said this is a slam dunk, this fake elector case. What do you think?
And one of the most interesting questions, I think, that ultimately the Department of Justice will have to confront is, are we dealing with one overarching conspiracy and we can pull a whole lot of different sort of strands of information and investigation into it? Or are we dealing with separate conspiracies? I can tell you, anytime we bring a big conspiracy case, like a RICO conspiracy case, every single defense team will attack our indictment decision, saying, no. If this was anything, it was 6 little conspiracies. It wasn't one big conspiracy. This is beginning to feel, particularly with the revelations about the fraudulent electors and Giuliani heading that up, and Jeffrey Clark at DOJ, and John Eastman with the bogus memo, how to overthrow the government. It feels like one big overarching conspiracy, and I hope that's the way DOJ gets after it. But then at some point we should talk about whether DOJ is going to get after it.
Well, yeah, I mean, clearly all of the templates being exactly the same in the 7 states would, I'm not a lawyer, Glenn, but that seems to me to be pretty, hard evidence.
Not a coincidence.
Right. So where else do we go here? So hang on. Harry Littman had a tweet, wanted to get your take. Again, so many things swirling around this morning. He said, for reasons I've said for a while, Fulton County poses the most direct personal threat to Trump. But the scandal is metastasizing quickly and now may threaten Team Trump more than any is the forgeries. They've got Watergate level potential breadth. So what is your take? We got a lot of walls closing in. I mean, obviously, we have to talk about Fulton County requesting a special grand jury. And also primarily because she's not getting cooperation there, right? I mean, she said it's Fani Willis, right? is requesting a special grand jury to aid in her investigation of Trump and his efforts to overturn the Georgia's election results. She said the move was needed because a significant number of witnesses and prospective witnesses has refused to cooperate with the investigation, absent a subpoena requiring their testimony, including Raffensperger. Such a low bar for what a good guy is on the Republican side, right? Like, people that do the right thing once, right, But anyway, so-called special purpose grand juries are rarely used in Georgia, but could be a valuable tool. They can issue indictments, right? They can subpoena witnesses, compel production of documents, etc. So that's what people don't realize. They can't indict, but she needs to get to indictment. She needs the stuff they can compel, right?
Yeah. So, and I actually think there's a parallel that we can draw between what's going on in the House Select Committee and what we're learning about what's going on in Fulton County, Georgia. Because think about this. Fani Willis asked the chief judge of the Fulton County Superior Court for permission to impanel a special grand jury, and I assume he's going to grant that permission. And that is because, according to DA Willis, some witnesses are not cooperating, or at least they're not cooperating without a subpoena. Some witnesses want a subpoena step for the protection of being able to announce to the world, look, I didn't want to cooperate, but I have a legal obligation, or I could be held in contempt because now I have a subpoena. It gives them cover. It's almost for show. But here's the thing. Remember how the House Select Committee has already talked with 400 witnesses, but there's that small batch, the cover-up caucus, who refuse to provide information, right? Down in Georgia, I suspect Fani Willis has gotten cooperation from lots and lots of people in the regular grand jury, but some people are bucking her, and that's why she needs the subpoena power of the special grand jury. So yes, I think Georgia is moving out, but here's the main point, Steph, on the subpoena front, and I think we need to start, beating this issue like a rented mule. All subpoenas are not created equal. Here's why that's so important. Congressional subpoenas, we have come to learn, are toothless, mainly because Congress has extracted its own teeth by refusing to use its own inherent power of contempt to force testimony, right? So that's why we see the Jenna Ellises of the world. Yeah. Did you see her tweet? She said, the committee's just mad because they can't date me. Yeah. That's how she responded. Yes. I went to make sure that was not a mock-up, right?
She's we know tweet. AOC. She is no AOC. But yes, go ahead.
But so congressional subpoenas are largely toothless. I mean, the House Select Committee needs to keep doing what it's doing. Mm-hmm. New York civil subpoenas, like were issued by Tish James to the Trumps, are not toothless, but they're civil and they can be fought in court and they take a long time. Georgia subpoenas, you need to go to the chief judge and ask permission. Can I please use a special grand jury? New York criminal subpoenas, like DA Alvin Bragg now, taking over for Vance, is using. You put somebody in the grand jury, they instantly get immunity. You know what the mother of all subpoenas are? Federal grand jury subpoenas. That's the kind of subpoena issued by the Department of Justice. They can't be defied. They can't be ignored. They can't be disregarded, because if you defy a federal grand jury subpoena, we send the marshals to your house, you're locked up, and your butt is in the witness chair in the grand jury immediately. And guess what? You want to raise a privilege, Steph? You know what we do? We walk across to the chief judge's courtroom. We litigate the privilege in real time. Done. No Don McGahn 2 years running out the clock. That is why DOJ needs to step up. They need to move out. They need to start subpoenaing these people to the federal grand jury.
Yeah. Speaking of Tish James, our friend, your friend and mine, Barb McQuaid, was on yesterday. And it was interesting. You know, the Trump Organization statement, of course, just attacked her personally. Didn't refute any of the, things she said in the. But I think Barb was saying she feels she's been too public. That's given Trump's ammunition. But to me, I'm sorry, running on putting criminals in prison is what attorney generals do. And the Trumps have been criminals their entire life. If you follow the Pulitzer Prize winning New York Times story and more, fraud has been their business model. So how is that? I don't see what's wrong with that. Her running saying, I'm going to, finally bring the Trumps to justice, who, like you say, been getting away with this for God knows how many years.
Yeah, it's really not out of bounds to say when people commit crimes, particularly high government officials who we trust with very weighty responsibilities, they ought to be held accountable. They ought to be indicted, tried, convicted, and punished. That is, our nation and our rule of law. So, yeah, I'm fine with that.